Upper 60s at the Corpus Christi International Airport, which is where we forecast for, and that's what goes down in the books as far as historical numbers for the area. We have a north wind at 9 miles per hour, dew points in the mid 60s, and with that upper 60s at the airport, another day with the same morning low and another record low broken. Old record 70 just last year. So 2 days in a row with upper 60s in the morning, mid 60s inland, and closer to the upper 70s at the coast. That's because of the sea surface temperatures being in the middle 80s on the Gulf of Mexico, moderating those coastal temperatures. The dew points, though, are still in the mid 60s, which is nice feeling for us considering it is the late part of July, middle of summer. It's a nice treat to see them below 70 at any point in the summer. That's going to change this weekend. You see the winds. We're already seeing an easterly motion to them, so we're going to have more humidity start to come in today, and it'll come in more so over the weekend as we get our prevailing southeasterly wind back. Very quiet across Texas. The front that came on Tuesday is still in the Gulf, but it is losing its frontal characteristics. The boundary is pretty much non-existent at this point. There's still some shower activity out there. Nothing tropical going to become of this, and for our weather purposes, that boundary is going to allow and release some of that humidity back into the coastal bend over the weekend. So the muggy meter is going to go from where it was earlier this week, comfortable, going to go back into the humid category today, in the middle of that category, and then more like summer levels of humidity by Saturday and Sunday, getting very close to sweltering. So that's going to happen with high pressure moving to the west. It opens up the Gulf for that tropical moisture to work back in here. Then the high moves back over central parts of the country, trapping the heat and humidity here and keeping rain chances away into next week, although we will have a little shot for a passing shower tomorrow. This morning and today, enjoy the weather. Mid to upper 60s will warm into the middle and lower 90s with sunny to partly cloudy skies. Tomorrow, humidity is back. We'll start the morning with some coastal isolated showers. They will stay along the sea breeze front and press inland, staying isolated in the afternoon. Air temperatures don't look a whole lot different, but the heat index values will. Today, mid to upper 90s on the feel-like forecast highs. Tomorrow, a lot more triple digits out there, 100 to 105 on Saturday. Thank you, humidity, for making it feel worse outside. But that's what we're going to have over the weekend. 93 today, sunny to partly cloudy with increasing humidity levels. East wind at 6 to 16 miles per hour. Tonight, not quite as cool. We're not going to get into the upper 60s, and this is another function of that rise in humidity. Isolated showers Saturday shouldn't be enough, though, to deter any outdoor activities. Humidity is back for sure and in full by Sunday. That will make the mid-90s feel like between 105 and 110, if not a little bit more in isolated locations into next week. John Thomas, Kristen.